It was a Saturday afternoon when my world fell apart. I had just left the supermarket with shopping bags in my hands. The parking lot was almost empty. The sun beat down hard on the asphalt and the air felt heavy. I was walking toward my car when something stopped me cold. A vehicle I recognized instantly. My heart lurched. It was my daughter's car, Isabella Caldwell's. It was parked off to one side, far from the entrance. The windows were fogged. Someone was inside. I approached slowly and then I saw her. Isabella was asleep in the driver's seat, her head resting against the window, her hair disheveled. In the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, my grandson Lucas Whitmore, 5 years old, was sleeping. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. I knocked on the glass once, then again. Isabella startled awake. She looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something I would never forget: fear. She rolled down the window and tried to smile, but the smile broke before it fully formed. "What are you doing here?" I asked. My voice came out harsher than I intended. "Why are you sleeping in the car with Lucas?" She lowered her gaze, bit her lip, and when she looked back at me, tears were already streaming down her cheeks. "My husband and my mother-in-law threw me out of the house you bought. They said I had no right to anything." The world stopped. I replayed her words in my mind again and again, as if repeating them might somehow change their meaning. But no. Daniel Whitmore, my son-in-law, the man I had bought a house for, the father of my grandson. Anne Margaret Whitmore, his mother, the woman who had always looked me up and down with thinly veiled judgment. They had thrown my daughter out of a house I paid for. And before we continue, tell us in the comments which city you are watching from. It is very important for us to know how far our stories reach. I felt my blood boil, my breath catch in my chest. Something inside me broke and reformed at the same time. I opened the car door. "Get up. Wake Lucas. You're coming with me. Right now." Isabella looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Mom, I do not want to cause you problems." "They already have a problem," I cut her off. "Grab your things. We are leaving." She obeyed. She gently woke Lucas. The boy opened his eyes, confused. He saw me and smiled. "Grandma." I picked him up and held him tightly. He smelled like cookies in sleep. "Everything is going to be all right now, my love," I whispered in his ear. But inside my head the questions would not stop spinning. How long had they been sleeping in that car? Why had Isabella not called me sooner? What had really happened in that house? And above all, how dared Daniel and his mother throw my daughter out of a house that was not even theirs? As I drove back home with Isabella and Lucas, one certainty struck me like lightning. This was not going to end here. My name is Helen Caldwell. I am 59 years old, and this is the story of how I defended my daughter when her world collapsed. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. That night, while Isabella bathed Lucas at home, I sat in the living room with a cup of coffee cradled in my hands. The steam rose slowly, but I did not see it. I stared at the wall and into the past. Because to understand how we got here, I have to go back, to when everything seemed perfect, to when I believed I had done the right thing. 5 years earlier, Isabella had come to my house glowing. She had that light in her eyes that only new love brings. She introduced me to Daniel one Sunday afternoon. He arrived with flowers. He addressed me as Mrs. respectfully. He spoke about his plans, his job as an accountant at a mid-sized private firm, his desire to build a solid family. I liked him. Perhaps too much. At the time, Isabella was 31 years old and worked as a teacher at a private elementary school. She earned enough to live comfortably but not enough to buy a house. I knew that. When she told me they wanted to get married and start a life together, I saw an opportunity to give her something I never had: security. My husband died when Isabella was 15 years old. He left us with debts and a mortgaged house that took me 10 years to pay off. I worked double shifts at the public hospital. I missed birthdays and nights at home, but I paid every dollar of that mortgage. And when the house was finally mine, I swore my daughter would never go through the same thing. So when they got married, I made a decision. I sold a piece of land I had inherited from my father, land on the outskirts of town that I had held onto for years. I sold it for $60,000, and with that money I bought a house. A beautiful house with 3 bedrooms and a large backyard, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The deed stayed in my name, always in my name, but I gave them the house so they could live there and begin their marriage with a secure roof over their heads. I remember the day I handed them the keys. It was in my kitchen. We were sitting around the table. I took the keys out of my purse and placed them in front of them. "This is your house. Take care of it. Take care of each other." Isabella cried. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Thank you, Mom. You have no idea what this means to me." Daniel stood up as well. He hugged me and said I was the best mother-in-law in the world, that he would never let me down. I believed him. The first years were good, at least on the surface. Isabella visited me every week. When Lucas was born, she brought him to me. A beautiful baby, big eyes and an easy laugh. I held him and thought it had all been worth it. But there were things I did not see or did not want to see. Like when Isabella stopped working. Daniel asked her to quit to take care of the baby. She told me as if it were good news. She said he could provide for the family. I nodded and said nothing, but something tightened in my chest. Then Margaret Whitmore began to appear. More and more time spent in the house. Isabella mentioned it in passing. I smiled and said it was good to have support, but inside me, a voice whispered caution. Margaret was 65 years old, a widow, and the kind of woman who believes no one does things as well as she does. At the wedding, she criticized the food, the flowers, even my daughter's dress. Isabella let it slide. So did I. It was a mistake. Over time, Margaret did not just visit the house, she stayed for days. Weeks. Daniel never told her no. Isabella began to change. She came by less often. She looked tired, thinner. She said everything was fine, but her eyes said otherwise. I asked her how things were going with her husband, with her mother-in-law. She always said they were fine. Lies I let pass because I wanted to believe my daughter was happy, because I had invested too much in that family to accept that something was wrong. 1 year ago in December, it was the last Christmas we all spent together. Isabella, Daniel, Lucas, Margaret, and me. I had dinner at their house. Margaret cooked, not my daughter. Throughout the entire meal, she talked non-stop about how to raise children, how to run a household, how women from her generation knew how to do things properly. Isabella ate in silence. Daniel nodded along. I watched and felt that weight in my chest grow heavier. As I was leaving, I hugged my daughter at the door. "Are you okay?" She smiled. That smile that never reaches the eyes. "Yes, Mom. I am fine." I should have insisted. I should have asked more questions. I should have taken her with me that very night. I did not. And now, sitting in my living room with my daughter and my grandson asleep in the guest room, I understood that all those small, ignored moments had built this nightmare. The keys to that house were still in my purse. I took them out and looked at them under the lamp's light. Keys to a house I paid for. A house that was mine. A house my daughter had been thrown out of as if she were a stranger. I clenched the keys tightly in my fist. I knew that the next day I would call a lawyer, but first I needed Isabella to tell me everything. Every detail. Every humiliation. Every word those two had said to her. Because if there was one thing I had learned in my 59 years of life, it was this. The truth always comes out. And when it does, it burns. As I tell you all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me right now. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee. I got up slowly. My bones cracked as always. 59 years do not pass without leaving their mark. I went downstairs and found Isabella in the kitchen. She was making scrambled eggs silently. Lucas was playing on the living room floor with some old toy cars I kept for when he came to visit. "Good morning, Mom," she said without looking at me. "Good morning, my girl." We sat down to breakfast. Lucas ate with enthusiasm. Isabella barely touched her food. I was not hungry either, but I knew we could not keep avoiding the conversation. When Lucas finished, I sent him to watch cartoons in my bedroom. I closed the door, went back to the kitchen, and sat across from Isabella. "Tell me everything," I said. "From the beginning." She lowered her eyes, rubbed her hands together, took a deep breath. "I do not know where to start." "Start with when things began to change." She nodded. And then she spoke. She told me that during the first 2 years of marriage, everything had been good. Daniel was attentive. He worked hard. He came home and played with Lucas. He kissed her before going to sleep. He told her he loved her. But when Lucas turned 2, something changed. Daniel began coming home late. He said there was a lot of work at the office, that he had important projects. Isabella believed him. Why would she not? But along with the late nights came other things. Margaret Whitmore began visiting more often. At first, the visits were short. 1 hour. 2 hours. She drank coffee, played with Lucas, and left. Then she started staying for lunch. Then for dinner. And later she started giving opinions. The soup is too salty. Daniel has high blood pressure. That sauce is not made that way. I will show you how I do it. Why do you give Lucas so many sweets? Children should eat fruit, not chocolate. Isabella endured it. She smiled. She agreed. She thanked her for the advice. But inside something was slowly breaking. And Daniel did not defend her. Not once. When she complained, he said it was his mother. That she only wanted to help. That Isabella was exaggerating. That she already knew how his mother was. Why do you always have to exaggerate everything? So Isabella stopped complaining. 2 years ago in March, Margaret arrived with 2 suitcases. I am staying for a few days, she announced. My house is being renovated. Daniel said yes without consulting Isabella. Those days turned into 2 weeks. Then into a month. Then into 3 months. Margaret took control of the kitchen. She cooked every day. She criticized everything Isabella did. She told her how to fold clothes. How to clean the floors. How to bathe Lucas. That is not how you clean a bathroom. Look, I will show you. You cannot let the child watch television for so long. When I was raising Daniel. Again, you are buying that brand of detergent. It is more expensive and cleans the same. Isabella told me all this with tears streaming down her face. She said she tried to talk to Daniel. Your mother has been here for months. We need space. I want to cook for my family without feeling judged all the time. And what did he say? I asked. That she was selfish. That his mother was alone. That she helped with Lucas so Isabella could rest. That she should be grateful. Grateful. After 6 months, Margaret finally returned to her own house. Isabella felt relieved. She thought things would return to normal. They did not. Even though she no longer lived there, Margaret kept coming every morning. Sometimes before Daniel left for work. She stayed until night. And Daniel had changed. He was no longer the attentive man from before. He came home from work and locked himself in his study. He barely spoke to Isabella. When she asked how his day had been, he answered with one-word replies. Fine. Tired. Later. When she complained, he said she was too demanding. That he worked all day to support the household. That she did not understand the pressure he was under. That she should leave him alone. Isabella stopped. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I started to feel invisible, Mom. As if I did not exist. As if I was only there to cook, clean, and take care of Lucas. And even then, everything I did was wrong. I took her hands. They were cold. Why did you not tell me sooner? Because I was ashamed, she whispered. You did so much for me. You gave me a house. You believed Daniel was a good man. I did not want to disappoint you. My heart tightened painfully. You have never disappointed me. Never. She cried harder. I held her. And as I held her, an image returned to my mind. That Christmas last year. December. Margaret cooking in my kitchen as if it were her own. Daniel ignoring my daughter all night. Isabella silent. Always silent. The signs had been there. All of them. Go on, I said. When did it get worse? She pulled away. Took a deep breath. 6 months ago in June, Margaret arrived again with her suitcases. This time she said she had broken up with her boyfriend and needed to be with her son. Daniel welcomed her with open arms. It will only be a few weeks. Do not be insensitive. Isabella already knew how that story ended. Margaret did not leave. This time it was worse. She started telling her what clothes to wear. How long her skirt should be. How tight her blouse was allowed to be. Married women should not dress like that. What will people think? She criticized her makeup. Her hairstyle. Her tone of voice. Do not speak so loudly. Do not laugh like that. Decent women do not laugh with their mouths open. And Daniel never said a word. Until one day in August, Isabella finally exploded. Margaret was in the kitchen. Isabella wanted to cook. Margaret told her no, that she had already prepared the meal. This is my house, Isabella replied. I will cook whenever I want. Margaret stared at her. This house belongs to my son. I live here too. And as long as I am here, things are done the way I say. Isabella felt as if the world were collapsing on top of her. My mother gave me this house. It is in her name. It is not yours. It is not Daniel's. It is mine. Margaret smiled. A cold smile. Then talk to Daniel. Ask him who has the documents. Ask him who is in charge here. Isabella went looking for him. He was in the living room watching television. What did your mother mean when she said you have the paperwork? Daniel did not even look at her. That your mom never changed the title. The house is still in her name. Not yours. And what does that mean? That technically you are not even living in your own house. You are living in your mother's house. From that day on, everything changed. Margaret treated her like an intruder. She ordered her around. She corrected her in front of Lucas. Daniel stopped speaking to her. Stopped touching her. Stopped seeing her. It was as if Isabella no longer existed. If you do not like it, leave, he would tell her. Those words went through me like a scream. I looked at my daughter. Her swollen eyes. Her gaunt face. Her hunched body. And I understood something I should have understood a long time ago. My daughter had not been living in a home. She had been surviving in a prison. I still ask myself whether I did the right thing when I bought them that house. And you? What would you have done in my place? After hearing everything Isabella told me that morning, something inside me cracked, and at the same time it hardened. But I could not let rage take control. I needed to understand more. I needed to know how my daughter had ended up sleeping in a car with her son. Tell me what happened after that fight in August? I asked her. Isabella poured herself more coffee. Her hands were shaking. After that, everything became unbearable. She explained that from the day Daniel bluntly told her the house was not legally hers, something shifted in that family's dynamic. As if a door had opened that could not be shut again. Margaret stopped pretending. She treated her like a servant. She gave her orders from the moment she woke up until she went to sleep. Isabella, wash these dishes. Isabella, iron Daniel's shirts. Isabella, Lucas is crying. Go make him stop. And if my daughter tried to say anything, if she dared to complain, Margaret answered with that cold smile we already knew. If you do not like it, you know where the door is. Daniel backed his mother in everything. When Isabella tried to talk to him, when she asked him to set boundaries, he ignored her. He literally turned his back on her and kept looking at his phone as if my daughter were not even there. One night in September 3 months ago, Isabella tried to get close to him in the bedroom. She needed to talk. She needed him to see her. She needed him just once to act like her husband. Daniel, please. This cannot keep going. Your mother treats me terribly. I feel humiliated in my own home. He did not even turn to look at her. I already told you it is not your house. It is your mother's house. And if she wanted to, she could throw all of us out tomorrow. Isabella felt that sentence like a slap. What are you talking about? My mom would never do that. Are you sure? For the first time, Daniel looked at her. Your mom controls everything. She decides who lives here and who does not. We do not have any legal rights to this property. But my mom gave it to me. A gift means nothing without paperwork, Isabella. Do you not see? We are living off your mother's charity. Those words were not only cruel. They were calculated. Daniel was planting a seed. A seed of doubt, of guilt. And it worked. Isabella started to feel guilty. Guilty for accepting that house. Guilty for not asking me to put it in her name. Guilty for being a burden. And when someone feels guilty, they tolerate more than they should. So she kept tolerating it. Then Margaret began controlling the household money. Daniel handed her the cash for groceries, for gas, for Lucas's expenses. My daughter had to ask her mother-in-law for permission for anything, even the most basic things. You need shampoo again? We just bought some 2 weeks ago. You want to take Lucas out for burgers? No, that is a waste of money. You want to buy yourself shoes? For what if you do not go anywhere? And it was true. Isabella was not going anywhere anymore. She stopped visiting me often. When I called to ask how she was, she always told me the same thing. Everything is fine, Mom. Just busy. I believed her. Or I wanted to believe her. The few times she came to my house, she looked thinner, quieter. But when I asked if she was okay, she smiled and said yes. Now I understand she was ashamed. That she did not want to worry me. That she thought she could fix it all by herself. In October 2 months ago, something happened that finally broke her. Daniel came home from work earlier than usual. Isabella was in the kitchen making dinner. Lucas was in his room playing. Margaret had gone out to the store. Daniel walked in, poured himself a glass of water and looked at her. I need to talk to you. Isabella stopped chopping vegetables. A chill ran through her. What is it? I think we should get divorced. The knife slipped from her hand and hit the floor. She stared at him, not understanding. What? This is not working. Isabella, you are not happy. I'm not happy. My mother is not happy. Why keep doing this? The words came out of his mouth with such coldness that my daughter felt as if she were facing a stranger. My mother is not happy? What about me? What about Lucas? Lucas will be fine. Children adapt. You cannot be serious. I am very serious. I have been thinking about this for months. This relationship has no future. Isabella felt her world collapsing. She tried to move closer. She tried to touch him. Daniel, can we go to therapy? Can we fix this? Please. He stepped back as if her touch disgusted him. There is nothing to fix. I have already made my decision. When did you make that decision? That does not matter. Of course it matters. We are a family. Daniel looked at her with contempt. You and I are nothing. We never were anything. This was a mistake from the start. Those words hung in the air like poisonous smoke. Isabella froze. She could not breathe. She could not think. Daniel walked out of the kitchen and left her there. Alone. Broken. That night, Isabella did not sleep. She sat in the living room, staring at the walls of that house she once believed was hers, once believed was her home. He thought about calling me. She dialed my number 3 times, but she always hung up before I could answer. What was she going to tell me? Mom, you were right. Daniel is not who I thought he was. I have been living a lie for 5 years. The shame was stronger than the pain. The next day, Daniel did not mention divorce again. He acted as if that conversation had never happened. He greeted Isabella in the morning, asked what was for breakfast, played with Lucas before leaving for work. My daughter did not understand anything. Had that conversation been real? Or had she dreamed it? But it was real. And it showed in one thing. From that day on, Daniel stopped touching her completely. They slept in the same bed, but he positioned himself as far away as possible, as if Isabella were contagious. Margaret noticed the change and took advantage of it. She began saying things to Isabella that sounded like advice, but were knives wrapped in soft words. Men need space. Do not smother them. Daniel works a lot. You should be more understanding. Wives who do not take care of their husbands lose them. And Isabella, broken as she was, started to believe it. She began to think she was the problem. That if she cooked better, if she looked better, if she spoke less, if she existed less, maybe Daniel would love her again. So she submitted. She became invisible. She cooked what Margaret ordered. She dressed the way Margaret approved. She spoke only when someone asked her something. And even that was not enough. Because they did not want a wife or a daughter-in-law. They wanted a shadow. And when that shadow no longer served them, they wanted it to disappear. In November 1 month ago, Isabella finally came to visit me. She arrived on a Thursday afternoon. She brought Lucas with her. The boy ran to hug me. But my daughter stayed by the door. I looked at her and knew something was terribly wrong. She had lost a lot of weight. Dark circles under her eyes. Dull hair. Clothes hanging loosely on her body. Isabella, what is happening to you? Nothing, Mom. I have just been tired. Tired of what? You are not working anymore. What is exhausting you so much? She lowered her eyes. It is life, you know. Oh, I did not know. And I should have insisted. I should have held her, looked her in the eyes, and not let go until she told me the truth. But I was afraid. Afraid of hearing something I could not undo. Afraid of confirming that my decision to buy them that house had been the worst mistake of my life. So I let her leave. I let her take Lucas back to that house. To that prison. And for 3 weeks I heard nothing from her. She did not answer my calls. She did not reply to my messages. Until that Saturday. That cursed Saturday in the supermarket parking lot. When I found her sleeping in the car with my grandson. When everything exploded. Now, sitting across from me in my kitchen watching her cry as she told me every detail of her nightmare, I understood something clearly. Isabella had not been denying reality out of cowardice. She had been denying it out of survival. Because accepting all at once that your marriage is a lie, that your husband despises you, that his mother humiliates you, that the house you live in is not yours, accepting all of that at the same time, can split you in two. Isabella was breaking, and I was not going to let her break any further. I took her hands in mine and forced her to look at me. Listen to me carefully, Isabella. None of this is your fault. Do you hear me? None of it. But Mom, I should have. No. You should not have done anything. I cut her off. Daniel and his mother are the ones who did this. They manipulated you, isolated you, made you feel worthless. But they were wrong. She looked at me with red, exhausted eyes, as if she had been crying on the inside for days. So what do I do now? I smiled, but it was not a gentle smile. It was a war smile. The kind that appears when someone stops asking for permission. Now you're going to rest. You're going to recover. And I am going to do what I should have done from the beginning. What? Protect you. That afternoon, while Isabella slept and Lucas watched his cartoons, I took out my phone. I searched for the contact of Mr. Miller, a lawyer I knew from the public hospital. A good man. Honest. And, when necessary, relentless. I wrote to him. Mr. Miller, I need your help. He replied within 5 minutes. What do you need, Helen? Is it urgent? I took a deep breath before answering. I need to evict 2 people from a house that belongs to me. And I need it to be legal, fast, and final. Come to my office on Monday. Bring all the property documents. I will be there. I put the phone away and stayed for a moment looking out the window. The sky was gray. It smelled like rain. And for the first time in weeks I felt something like hope. Because storms cleanse. And this storm was only just beginning. Monday arrived faster than I expected. I woke up early. I prepared breakfast for Isabella and Lucas. My daughter was still in that strange state of numbness. Her body was present, but her soul seemed lost somewhere dark. Today I am going out for a few hours, I told her as I poured her coffee. I need to take care of some things. Isabella nodded without asking anything. Lucas was eating his pancakes with honey. His face was smeared with chocolate. I wiped it with a napkin and he let me without complaining. Where are you going, Grandma? He asked me in that little voice that always melted my heart. To take care of some important matters, my love. But I will be back soon. Before leaving, I searched my filing cabinet for all the house documents. The original deed, the receipts, the proof of payments. Also the utility documents I had been covering all these years. Electricity, water, gas, property taxes. Everything was in my name. It had always been in my name. I put everything into a folder and headed to Mr. Miller's downtown law office. His office was located downtown in an old but well-maintained building on the 3rd floor. I took the stairs. My niece protested, but I ignored them. I had more important things on my mind. Mr. Miller greeted me with a hug. We had known each other for years. We had worked together on several cases related to the hospital. Medical negligence, workplace accidents. He was one of those serious lawyers who do not promise what they cannot deliver. Helen, sit down. Tell me what is going on. I sat across from his desk, took a deep breath and told him everything. I told him about the house I bought for Isabella, about how I gave it to her so she could live there with Daniel, about how Margaret moved in as if she were the owner, about how they humiliated my daughter day after day, about how they threw her out onto the street. Mr. Miller listened without interrupting. He took notes. When I finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Let me see the documents." I handed him the folder. He reviewed each document carefully, the deed, the receipts, the proof of payments. After 10 minutes he looked up. "This is very clear. The house is in your name. You are the sole legal owner. Daniel and his mother have no rights whatsoever over this property." I felt a wave of relief, and at the same time a surge of urgency. "So I can remove them?" "Yes, but there is a process. You cannot simply go and throw them out. You have to file an eviction lawsuit. It can take between 3 and 6 months. My stomach dropped. 6 months. "I understand your urgency," Mr. Miller said firmly, "but the law is clear. They have lived there for 5 years. Even without legal rights, they have what is called possession. We have to follow the process." I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. 6 months. Half a year. Meanwhile, Daniel and Margaret would continue living in my house as if nothing had happened. "Is there any way to speed this up?" I asked, my throat tight. Mr. Miller thought for a moment. "We can request a protective order for Isabella if there is evidence of violence or threats." "There was no physical violence," I said. "It was all psychological." "That makes it more complicated. Psychological abuse is harder to prove." I did not break eye contact. "And Lucas? Does abandoning a child not count?" Mr. Miller's eyes lit up as if a piece had fallen into place. "That does. If Daniel threw his wife and son out onto the street, that can be considered abandonment of the marital home and parental abandonment. We can use that." "For what?" "To request temporary child support and to strengthen the eviction case. If we prove that Daniel abandoned his responsibilities as a father, the family court judge may be more receptive to the eviction order." Hope returned to my chest. "What do you need from me?" "I need Isabella to come in and give a full statement of everything that happened. I need dates, witnesses if there are any, messages, emails, anything that proves the abuse and abandonment. And I need your authorization to act on your behalf as the property owner." "Authorized," I said without hesitation. "Do whatever you have to do." Mr. Miller smiled. It was the smile of a lawyer about to go to war. "We are going to get your house back, Helen. And we are going to make Daniel pay child support for that boy. I promise you." I left his office feeling stronger, more focused, but also aware that this was only the beginning. On the way home, I stopped by the supermarket. I bought groceries for the week. And as I pushed the cart down the aisles, my mind would not stop spinning. I needed Isabella to give me more information. I needed proof. Messages. Something concrete. When I got home, Isabella was in the living room with Lucas. The boy was drawing in a notebook. She was staring out the window with that distant look that was already breaking my heart. I put the groceries away, made some tea, and sat down next to her. "My girl, I need to ask you something important." Isabella turned to look at me. "What is it? Do you have messages from Daniel? Emails, anything where he said hurtful things, or threatened to throw you out?" She lowered her eyes. "I have some messages. May I see them?" She hesitated for a moment. But in the end she took out her phone, unlocked it, searched for the conversation with Daniel, and handed it to me. I started reading, and what I saw made my blood boil. There were messages from September, October, and November. All with the same tone. Cold, dismissive, cruel. "Do not look for me when you leave. I am going to get home late. Tell my mom to warm up my food. Yours tastes awful. Why are you always crying? You look like a little girl. Lucas is unbearable. Control him. I cannot stand looking at you anymore. You disgust me." That last message was from the 1st of December. Less than a month ago. I kept scrolling. There was another message. From the 14th of December. 2 weeks ago. "Pack your things and leave. I do not want you here anymore." Isabella had replied. "Where am I supposed to go with Lucas?" Daniel's response was devastating. "That is not my problem. Go live with your mother. She has always supported you anyway." And then another one. "The house is mine. My mom and I decided we do not want you here anymore." One more, even worse. "If you do not leave the easy way, we will make you leave the hard way." My hand started shaking. I looked up at Isabella. Why did you not show me this sooner? She had tears in her eyes. Because I was ashamed, Mom. Ashamed that my marriage was a failure. Ashamed to admit that the man I chose turned out to be a monster. I held her tightly. You have nothing to be ashamed of. The one who should be ashamed is him. Him and his mother. I took a photo of each message and sent them to myself. That was the evidence Mr. Miller needed. My girl, these messages are gold, I told her, my voice steady. With this we can prove abandonment. We can show that Daniel threw you out of the house without any legal reason. And what good does that do? Isabella asked, her voice breaking. It helps us remove him from my house, make him pay child support for Lucas and face the consequences of what he did, I replied. For the first time in days I saw something like hope in my daughter's eyes. Do you really think we can win? I do not think it. I know it. That night, after putting Lucas to bed, Isabella and I stayed in the living room talking. I needed to know more. I needed to understand how we had gotten here. Tell me about Margaret, I said. Was she always like this? Isabella thought for a moment. At first, no. At first she was tolerable. Yes, she was critical and bossy, but I thought it was just her personality, that with time she would get better. And when did she change? When I got pregnant with Lucas. That is when she really surprised me. Why? Because she wanted to control everything. She wanted to decide how we would raise Lucas, what name we would give him, which hospital he would be born in, everything. Daniel was always on his mother's side. Always. I thought that when Lucas was born things would change. That he would mature. That he would put his family first. But it did not happen. It did not. On the contrary, it got worse. Margaret started telling Daniel that I did not know how to take care of the baby, that I was spoiling him, that I was going to ruin him. And he believed her. He always believed her. I could spend the whole day taking care of Lucas. Bathing him, feeding him, playing with him. But if Margaret said I was doing something wrong, Daniel scolded me. My heart broke with every word. Why did you not tell me any of this when it was happening? Isabella stayed silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because you had done so much for me, Mom. You gave me a house. You gave me stability. I felt like I had no right to complain, like I should be grateful. Like if my marriage was not working, it was my fault. No, my girl. It is not your fault. And also because I was afraid, she continued. Afraid that if I got divorced I would lose the house, be left with nothing, and Lucas would suffer. But the house is mine. You were never going to lose it. Daniel convinced me otherwise. He told me that even if the house was in your name, he had rights because he had lived there, that if we divorced a judge would give him half. And I believed him. The manipulation had been perfect. Daniel and Margaret had built a mental prison around Isabella. They convinced her she had no options, no rights, that she was worth nothing. And it worked until that moment. You are not going to believe them anymore, I told her. They are not going to hurt you anymore. She looked at me with those tired eyes. How can you be so sure? Because now I know the whole truth, I said, and the truth is the only thing we need to win this war. The next day I took Isabella to Mr. Miller's office. She gave her full statement. Every humiliation, every insult, every threat. Mr. Miller recorded her testimony, took more notes, and reviewed the messages. When we finished, he looked at me seriously. We have a strong case. A very strong case. I am filing the eviction lawsuit this week, and I am requesting temporary child support. With some luck, we will have the first hearing in about a month. And in the meantime, Isabella and Lucas stay with you. He leaned slightly toward me, making sure there was no doubt. No contact with Daniel unless it is through lawyers. And you are not going to that house for any reason. Understood. Understood, I nodded. But there was something else I needed to do. Something Mr. Miller did not need to know yet. That afternoon, while Isabella took a nap and Lucas played in the yard, I searched my contacts for the number of Rachel Bennett, an acquaintance who worked in the human resources department of the company where Daniel worked. I wrote to her. Rachel, I need a favor. Can you check if Daniel is still working at your company? She replied quickly. Of course, Helen, give me a few minutes. 15 minutes later, her response came in. He's still working here. In fact, he just asked for a raise. Why do you ask? I did not reply, but I already had another piece of the puzzle. Daniel was working, earning good money, and still he had thrown his wife and son out onto the street. It was not about money. It was about control, about cruelty. And that gave me even more reasons to go all in. 2 weeks passed since Mr. Miller filed the lawsuit. 2 weeks in which my house became a refuge for Isabella and Lucas. 2 weeks in which I watched my daughter start to breathe again. Little by little, color returned to her cheeks. She began to smile when Lucas got into mischief. She woke up earlier, cooked with me in the mornings, talked more. One afternoon while we were preparing dinner, she said something that broke my heart. Mom, it has been so long since I last felt safe. I looked at her. She had flour on her nose. She looked younger, lighter. How long? Years, literally years. I stopped what I was doing and hugged her. Well, now you are safe and you are going to stay safe. But that peace was not going to last long. On the 22nd of December, on a Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Mr. Miller. Helen, I have news. Good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Daniel was formally served with the lawsuit last Friday, and he has already responded. I felt a blow to my chest. What does he say? He says he did not abandon anyone. That Isabella left of her own free will. That he never threw her out of the house. Anger rose in my throat. That is a lie. I know it. We have the messages to prove it, he said, but Daniel hired a lawyer. And that lawyer is claiming the messages were taken out of context, that there was a marital argument but no abandonment. The judge has not decided anything yet. That is why we have a hearing scheduled for the 8th of January, in less than 3 weeks. What do we need to do? More evidence. Witnesses. Is there anyone who saw how Margaret treated Isabella? Neighbors, friends, family. I thought for a moment. There was a neighbor. Megan. She lives next door to the house. She and Isabella were friends. Perfect. I need Isabella to talk to her and ask her to testify. And if she refuses, we find someone else. But we need someone. The messages help a lot, but a witness in person makes the difference. I hung up and went to find Isabella. She was in the yard with Lucas. He was chasing butterflies. Isabella watched him with that tenderness only mothers have. Isabella, I need to talk to you. She stood up. We went inside and I told her what Mr. Miller had said. Her face went pale. Megan, do you think she would testify? She bit her lip. I do not know. I have not spoken to her in months. Why? Isabella took a deep breath and then she told me something I did not know. Because Daniel and Margaret forbade me from talking to her. Why? 6 months ago in June, when Margaret came back the second time to stay, Megan came to visit me. It was a hot afternoon. Margaret was in the living room watching television. Megan showed up with sweetbread. She wanted to invite me over for coffee at her place. And what happened? Margaret met her at the door. She would not let her in. He told her I was busy. Megan was surprised. She knew her, she knew she was difficult, but she had never seen her that hostile. She said she was only stopping by for a minute. Margaret repeated that I was busy another day, and then she shut the door in her face. Isabella clenched her hands. I saw everything from the kitchen. I wanted to go out, I wanted to apologize, but Margaret stopped me. What did she say? That I did not need friends who distracted me from my responsibilities. I told her Megan had been my friend for years, and she said friends were a waste of time, that I needed to focus on my family. After that, Isabella tried to call Megan to explain, to apologize, but Megan did not answer. And from then on, Margaret watched everything. If Isabella stepped into the yard and Megan was in hers, Margaret would call her back, inventing that she needed help with something, anything, just to cut the conversation short. And Daniel backed his mother. My mom is right, he would tell her. That neighbor is a gossip. We do not want her talking about our private life. So Isabella stopped talking to Megan, stopped talking to everyone, and ended up completely alone. And do you think Megan still lives there? I asked. Yes, she said. She was not going to move. That house belonged to her parents. Then we have to talk to her, I said. Isabella hesitated. Mom, months have passed. She must be angry with me. She must think I ignored her on purpose. Then we explained that it was not like that. That they kept you trapped, that they isolated you from everyone. I do not know if she will want to listen. I took her hands. There is only one way to find out. The next day, Monday, the 23rd of December, we went to the house. To my house, the house where Daniel and Margaret were living as if nothing had happened. I asked Isabella to stay in the car. I parked in front of Megan's house. My heart was pounding. I had not been back on that street since I found my daughter sleeping in the car. Seeing the house again turned my stomach. The curtains were closed. The yard looked neglected. My house, the one I had cared for so much, looked sad. I knocked on Megan's door. A woman in her 40s opened it, short hair, kind eyes. Yes. Megan. Yes, that is me. My name is Helen Caldwell. I am Isabella's mother. Her expression changed. She turned serious. It has been months since I have heard anything from her. I know, and that is why I am here. I need to talk to you. Megan hesitated, but in the end she opened the door. Come in. We went into her living room. I sat on an old but comfortable armchair. Megan sat across from me. Where is Isabella? She is in the car. She did not want to come in. Is she afraid? Afraid you are angry with her. Megan let out a breath. I am not angry. I am confused. One day we were friends and the next she stopped speaking to me. I tried to reach out several times, but she always avoided me. She was not avoiding you. They forbade her from talking to you. Megan frowned. Who? Her mother-in-law and her husband. Then I told her everything without holding anything back. How Margaret took control of the house, how she isolated her, how they treated her like she was nothing, and how they threw her out onto the street. As I spoke, I watched Megan's face shift from confusion to horror. By God. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined it was that serious. Did you notice anything? Anything you can testify to? Megan nodded. A lot. I heard shouting. I saw that woman treating Isabella like she was her servant. Once I saw her crying in the yard. I tried to talk to her, but Margaret came out and pulled her back inside. When was that? In October, about 2 months ago. Would you be willing to say that in front of a judge? Megan did not hesitate. Yes. Isabella does not deserve what they did to her. She was always a good person, a good neighbor, a good mother. And watching how they treated her broke my heart, but I did not know how to help. I felt enormous relief. Thank you, Megan. You have no idea how much this means. Can I see Isabella? Of course. We went outside. Isabella was still in the car. When she saw Megan, she rolled down the window. Megan stepped closer and looked her in the eyes. I am so sorry. I should have insisted more. I should have helped you. Isabella started to cry. It is not your fault. It is mine. I should have spoken up. I should have asked for help. No, Megan said. It is not your fault. They manipulated you, isolated you, and I was foolish to believe you had simply forgotten me. They hugged through the open window. 2 friends separated by abuse, 2 women finally finding each other again. And as I watched them, something caught my attention. The door to my house opened and Margaret walked out. He saw me, Isabella, and Megan. Her face flushed red with rage. What are you doing here? She shouted from her yard. I did not answer. I only looked at her. Margaret started walking toward us. Every step felt like a threat. This is private property. You have no right to be here. I smiled, but it was not a kind smile. This property is mine, Margaret. I paid every dollar for this house, and you have no right to be here. Her face twisted with fury. Liar. This house belongs to my son. Your son does not have a single document to prove that. I have the deed, the receipts, and I have an eviction lawsuit with your name and Daniel's on it. Margaret went pale. What? Have you been served yet? Or did your lawyer not tell you? In 3 weeks there is a hearing, and when it is over you are leaving my house with or without your things. That part depends on you. You cannot do that. Yes, I can. And I will. At that moment Daniel came outside. He was in sweatpants, hair messy. He looked thinner than the last time I saw him. What is going on here? Margaret pointed at us. These crazy women are saying they are going to throw us out of the house. Daniel looked at me, then at Isabella. I do not know what I saw on his face. Guilt, fear. I do not know. Mrs. Caldwell, can we resolve this civilly? There is nothing to resolve, Daniel. You threw my daughter and my grandson out onto the street. You made them sleep in a car and you thought there would be no consequences. I never threw them out. I have your messages. All of them. Pack your things and leave. Does that sound familiar? Daniel fell silent. On the 8th of January I will see you in family court, I said. Bring a good lawyer because you are going to need one. I got back into the car. Isabella was still shaking. Megan waved goodbye. I started the engine and in the rearview mirror I saw Margaret and Daniel standing in the middle of the street, frozen. For the first time in weeks I felt that the balance was finally starting to shift. Justice is not always fast, but when it comes with force. And they were about to learn that. Christmas came 2 days later, on the 25th of December. Normally that date filled my house with joy, but that year it tasted bittersweet. Isabella and I decorated the tree with Lucas. He hung ornaments with so much excitement that he almost knocked the tree over twice. We laughed, cooked. We made punch, wrapped gifts. But one shadow stayed there, the hearing closer and closer. On Christmas night, after Lucas fell asleep waiting for Santa Claus, Isabella and I sat in the living room with a glass of eggnog each. What are you thinking about? I asked her. She was staring at the tree lights, those tiny bulbs blinking like little stars. About everything I lost. What do you mean? I lost 5 years of my life to a man who never loved me. I lost my job. I lost my friends. I lost my dignity. I took her hand. You did not lose your dignity. They took it from you, but you are taking it back. You really think so? I know so. She gave a sad smile. Sometimes I wonder if any of what I lived through was real. If Daniel ever loved me even a little. I do not know, sweetheart. Only he knows that. But what I do know is this. Real love does not humiliate, does not isolate, does not destroy. And what he did to you was not love. Isabella nodded, took a small sip of eggnog and went quiet for a while. Do you know what is the saddest part? She said at last. What? That for a long time I thought I deserved it. I thought that if I tried harder, if I were a better wife, a better daughter-in-law, a better mother, things would change. But they did not. No, because the problem was never you. The problem was always him and his mother. We raised our glasses to the truth, to freedom, to new beginnings. The next few days passed with a tense calm. Isabella started to look stronger. She began talking about looking for work again, about teaching again, about rebuilding her life. Lucas played in the yard every day. He did not ask about his dad anymore. At first he did. Where is my dad? Isabella would tell him his father was busy, that he would see him soon. Gentle lies to protect the heart of a 5-year-old child. But with time he stopped asking, and that broke my heart. A child forgetting his father because his father chose to forget him first. On the 30th of December, 1 week before the hearing, Mr. Miller called us. I need you to come to my office. There is something you have to see. We went that same afternoon. Lucas stayed with my neighbor. Isabella and I walked into Mr. Miller's office with our stomachs tied in knots. He had a laptop open on his desk and motioned for us to sit. What is going on? I asked. Daniel's lawyer, Mr. Richard Collins, just sent his formal response, and there are some interesting things in it. Like what? Mr. Miller turned the laptop toward us and started reading. In that document, Mr. Collins argued that Isabella had voluntarily abandoned the marital home, that she had taken the child without consulting the father, and that she was trying to keep Lucas away from Daniel. Isabella went pale. That is a lie. All of it is a lie. I know, Mr. Miller said, but there is more. He kept reading. The lawyer also claimed that Margaret lived in the house because she cared for her grandson, that Isabella was a negligent mother, that she did not know how to care for the child properly, that Margaret had to step in many times to protect Lucas. I felt my blood boil. Negligent. I blurted out, unable to hold it back. My daughter. The woman who poured her whole life into that boy from the day he was born. It is a strategy, Helen, Mr. Miller said, calm but tight. They are trying to flip everything. They want Isabella to look like the villain and for the judge to believe them. Not if we have proof, I said through clenched teeth. And we do, Mr. Miller nodded. Daniel's messages, Megan's testimony, your statement, Isabella's statement. That carries more weight than a lawyer's lies. Isabella swallowed. And the eviction? She asked, her voice shaking. Mr. Miller glanced down at the document. His lawyer is arguing that Daniel has a right of possession because he lived there for 5 years. That even though the house is in your name, Helen, he contributed to maintaining the property. Contributed. I nearly shouted. I have paid for everything. I know, Mr. Miller said, not losing his patience. And that is exactly what we are going to prove. I brought all the receipts you gave me. They are in your name. There is not a single payment made by Daniel. Isabella pressed her hands to her face. Then, why is he lying like this? Because it is his job, Mr. Miller said. To defend his client even if he is guilty, even if the lies are obvious. That is how the system works. Isabella broke. She started crying. I held her. Mr. Miller gave us a moment. When my daughter could breathe again, he continued, and his voice no longer sounded only firm but heavy. There is something else I have to tell you. A cold feeling spread through my stomach. What? Daniel is asking for joint custody of Lucas. The world stopped. Isabella lifted her head, her eyes red. What? He is asking for the child to spend half the time with him and the other half with you, Mr. Miller explained. And yes, we are going to argue that a father who abandoned his child does not deserve custody. But we have to be ready. Daniel is going to come in swinging. Isabella was trembling. He cannot take my son. He cannot. He is all I have left. I met her gaze with every ounce of steadiness I had. He is not taking him. We are not going to allow it. Mr. Miller nodded. The hearing is in 8 days. During that time, I need you to prepare your statement. We are going to practice what you will say, how you will answer the judge, and how you will answer Mr. Collins's questions. Isabella shrank into herself. They are going to interrogate me? Yes, Mr. Miller confirmed. And it is going to be hard. They are going to try to make you doubt yourself. They will try to make you look bad. They will twist your words. I do not know if I can. Yes, you can, I cut in. You are stronger than you think. And I will be with you every second. The next few days were intense. Isabella rehearsed her statement over and over. Mr. Miller trained her. He asked uncomfortable questions, pushed her to the edge, prepared her for the worst. I watched her change. Every day she grew steadier, surer, and angrier. And anger, when it is justified, holds you up. It gives you clarity. The night before the hearing, Isabella could not sleep. I heard her walking through the house. At 3 in the morning I came downstairs and found her in the kitchen, sitting in the dark. You cannot sleep? No. I sat beside her. What are you worried about? Everything, she whispered. What if the judge believes Daniel? What if I lose Lucas? I took her hand. You are not going to lose your child. You have been with him every day of his life. You fed him, bathed him, cared for him when he was sick, comforted him when he cried. Daniel did none of that. Isabella took a deep breath as if her chest were weighed down. But his lawyer is going to lie. Let him lie all he wants, I said. The truth always wins. She looked at me, searching for something. Do you really believe that? Yes. With all my heart. Isabella held me tightly the way she did when she was little and had nightmares. Thank you, Mom. For everything. You do not have to thank me, I said, squeezing her. I am your mother. That is what mothers do. They protect. The morning of the 8th of January dawned gray. Heavy clouds, the smell of rain. I put on my best simple black suit. Isabella chose a plain gray dress, nothing flashy. Mr. Miller had told us to look conservative, serious, trustworthy. Lucas stayed with my neighbor again. Isabella kissed him for a long time goodbye. He did not understand why his mother looked so serious. Mom, are you sad? No, sweetheart, Isabella told him. I just have to take care of some important things, but I will be back soon. Will you bring me ice cream? Despite everything, Isabella smiled. I will bring you too. We got to family court at 9 in the morning. The building was old. Gray walls, hallways that smelled like damp air and stored paper. People waiting on wooden benches, lawyers with briefcases, families pressed together in front of courtroom doors. Mr. Miller was waiting for us outside courtroom 4. Ready? Isabella shook her head. No. No one is ready for this, Mr. Miller said. But are you prepared? Remember what we practiced. Answer calmly. Do not let them provoke you. And tell the truth. Only the truth. We walked in. There was Daniel sitting on a bench in a black suit, his hair slicked back. He looked nervous. When he saw us, he dropped his gaze. Next to him was Margaret, also dressed in black, wearing dark glasses as if she were in mourning. When she looked at us, she threw us a stare full of hatred. Daniel's lawyer was an older man with gray hair, an expensive suit, a leather briefcase. He looked confident, almost arrogant. We sat on the other side, Mr. Miller in the middle, Isabella to his right, me to his left. Then the judge walked in. A man around 60, white hair, glasses, a serious expression, but not a cruel one. Good morning, he said. And that was how the battle began. One that would decide the future of my daughter and my grandson. The judge opened a file, reviewed papers. The silence was so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. All right, he said at last. Today we have 2 matters. First, the eviction lawsuit filed by Mrs. Caldwell against Mr. Whitmore and Mrs. Whitmore. Second, the request for temporary custody and child support for the minor Lucas Whitmore. He looked at Mr. Miller. Counsel, you represent Mrs. Caldwell. Proceed. Mr. Miller stood up, opened his briefcase and took out a copy of the deed. Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Caldwell, is the sole legal owner of the single-family home located at Magnolia Lane, number 342. She purchased that property 5 years ago with her own funds. The deed is in her name and she has paid all utilities and property taxes ever since. He set the documents on the judge's desk. Here are the records. 5 years of electricity, water, gas and property tax receipts. All in Mrs. Caldwell's name. Not a single payment made by Mr. Whitmore. Mr. Collins stood. Your Honor, my client has lived on that property for 5 years, maintained the home, contributed indirectly. Contributed indirectly? Mr. Miller cut him off. Can your client produce any invoice? Any receipt? Any proof of these supposed improvements? Mr. Collins hesitated. My client did not keep those receipts. How convenient, Mr. Miller said, not softening his tone. Your Honor, the law is clear. The property belongs to the person whose name is on the deed and who has paid for its maintenance. Mr. Whitmore has no legal right to that house. The judge nodded slowly. I understand. But before I make a decision on the eviction, I need to address the other matter. Custody of the minor and child support. I felt my stomach tighten. Because if Mr. Whitmore is requesting joint custody, he will need a place to live with the child, the judge continued. Counsel, present your case on custody. Mr. Miller stood again. His voice was steady, controlled. Your Honor, my client, Isabella Caldwell, was forced out of her home by her husband, Daniel Whitmore, on the 14th of December of this year. She was made to leave with her minor son, Lucas, with no financial resources. Days later, she was found sleeping in her car in the supermarket parking lot. He paused briefly. That constitutes abandonment of the marital home and parental abandonment. Mr. Richard Collins stood immediately. That is false. My client never forced anyone out. Isabella left of her own free will. By her own choice. Mr. Miller calmly took out his phone. Your Honor, I have text messages sent by Mr. Whitmore to my client. I request permission to read them. The judge nodded. Mr. Miller read out loud. 14th of December. Mr. Whitmore wrote, pack your things and leave. I do not want you here anymore. Then he continued. My client replied, where am I supposed to go with Lucas? And Mr. Whitmore answered, not my problem. Go live with your mother. She has always supported you anyway. This house is mine. My mother and I decided we do not want you here anymore. If you do not leave the easy way, we will make you leave the hard way. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. I looked at Daniel. His head was down, his hands clenched. Margaret was watching him with wide eyes. The judge took off his glasses, cleaned them carefully, and put them back on. Are these messages authentic? Yes, Your Honor. I can show you my client's phone with the full conversation. Mr. Miller handed Isabella's phone to the judge. He read the messages one by one. His expression hardened with every line. Mr. Whitmore, he said at last, these messages were sent by you. Daniel stood visibly nervous. Your Honor, we were fighting. I said things I should not have said. The judge stared at him. You ordered your wife to leave the house with your child without providing any resources, and you are now requesting joint custody. Mr. Collins jumped in. Your Honor, my client regrets those messages. It was an emotional moment, but he loves his son and wants to be part of his life. If he truly loved his son, the judge cut in, he would not have let him sleep in a car. Mr. Collins fell silent. The judge turned back to Mr. Miller. Do you have additional evidence? Yes, Your Honor. I submit the testimony of a neighbor who witnessed the psychological abuse my client suffered at the hands of Mr. Whitmore and his mother, Mrs. Whitmore. Call the witness. Megan Reynolds walked into the courtroom. She looked nervous. She took the stand and swore to tell the truth. Mr. Miller began questioning her. Megan answered clearly. She described seeing Margaret treat Isabella as if she were a servant. She spoke about the shouting. She said that once she saw Isabella crying in the yard and watched Margaret pull her back inside. When did that happen? Mr. Collins asked. In October, about 2 months ago. And what did you think when you saw it? That something was very wrong. I tried to talk to Isabella several times after that, but she always avoided me, or rather they would not let her talk to me. Mr. Collins stood. Ma'am, you and Isabella were friends, correct? We were neighbors and friends, yes. Then your testimony is biased. You want to help your friend. I want to tell the truth, Megan said firmly. I saw what I saw and heard what I heard. And what I saw was a woman being mistreated in her own home. The judge lifted a hand. Enough. You may step down. Thank you for your testimony. Megan left the courtroom. Before she went, she glanced at me in a way that said, I did it. I hope it helps. The judge took a slow breath. Anything else, counsel? Yes, Your Honor. I request that my client, Isabella Caldwell, give her statement. Isabella stood. She walked to the witness stand on shaking legs, sat down and swore to tell the truth. Mr. Miller started with simple questions. How long she had been married when the mistreatment began, what role Margaret played in the home. Isabella answered clearly. She told her story without embellishment or drama. She spoke about how Daniel changed after Lucas was born, how Margaret took control of the household, how they isolated her and made her feel worthless. As she spoke, I saw something in my daughter that I had not seen in years. Dignity. Then it was Mr. Collins's turn, and his questioning was harsh. Mrs. Caldwell, you worked. Yes. I was a teacher, but my husband asked me to resign to care for our son. So your husband supported you financially? Yes. And you lived in a house your mother allowed you to use without paying rent or utilities? My mother paid the utilities, she replied, but I cared for my son for the house I cooked and cleaned. That is not a financial contribution. My point is that you depended entirely on your husband and your mother. I depended on them because they convinced me to quit my job, to distance myself from my friends, and to have no independence. And when they no longer needed me, they threw me out like trash. Mr. Collins was silent for a moment. No further questions. Isabella returned to her seat, trembling. I took her hand. It was ice cold. You did perfect, I whispered. The judge closed the file. I will take a recess of 30 minutes to review all evidence. When we return, I will issue my decision. We stepped out. Isabella collapsed into my arms. I do not know if I said the right thing. You told the truth, and that is the only thing that matters. Mr. Miller looked confident. You did very well. The judge saw the messages, heard Megan, and heard you. Daniel has no defense. After the recess, we went back in. The judge was already seated, his expression serious. I have reviewed all evidence presented and have reached the following conclusions. My heart was pounding. First, on the eviction. Mrs. Caldwell is the sole legal owner of the home. She has presented strong proof that she covered the property's maintenance for 5 years. Mr. Whitmore and Mrs. Whitmore have no legal right to that residence. The eviction is granted. You have 30 days to vacate. Isabella squeezed my hand. Second, on custody of the minor Lucas Whitmore. After reviewing the messages, the neighbor's testimony, and the mother's statement, it is clear that Mr. Whitmore abandoned his parental responsibilities by forcing his wife and child out without resources. The judge looked at Daniel with a hard stare. Therefore, full custody of the minor is awarded to the mother. Mr. Whitmore will have the right to supervised visitation twice per month, in a neutral location, and he must pay child support of $300 per month, retroactive to the 14th of December. Daniel stood. Your Honor, that is not fair. He is my son. If you had thought about your son when you left him sleeping in a car, we would not be here, the judge replied. Court is adjourned. The gavel echoed through the room. We won the house. We won custody. We won justice. We walked out. Isabella was crying, but not from pain anymore. This time it was relief. Mr. Miller hugged both of us. We did it. Behind us, I heard Margaret shouting at Daniel, telling him it was all his fault. I did not turn around. They had taken enough from my life. We got into the car. I drove in silence. Isabella stared out the window, tears falling without stopping. What are you thinking about? I asked her. About what I gained, she whispered. But also what I lost. What did you lose? 5 years of my life, my marriage, my trust, and so much pain. I interrupted her gently. You lost the pain. You lost the fear. You lost the prison you were living in. And yes, you lost 5 years, but you gained the rest of your life. She looked at me and smiled through tears. Thank you, Mom, for never giving up, for fighting for me. I will always fight for you. When we got home, Lucas ran to us. Mom, Grandma, did you bring me ice cream? Isabella dropped to her knees and hugged him so tightly he protested. Mom, you are squeezing me. Sorry, sweetheart. I just missed you so much. Me too. And my ice cream. We laughed. For the first time in weeks, we laughed for real. That night, while Lucas slept and Isabella rested in her room, I sat alone in the living room with a cup of tea. I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the abuse, the pain. But I also thought about justice and about how the truth always finds a way to come into the light. Daniel and Margaret played with fire. They manipulated, they lied, they abused, and now they were paying the price. Not out of revenge, but because actions have consequences. Life has a way of settling the score. The 30 days the judge gave them to leave the house passed faster than I expected. During that time, Isabella started to come back to life. She enrolled in a refresher program for teachers. She began applying to private schools again. She reconnected with friends she had lost during her marriage. And more than anything, she found her smile again. Lucas was happy. He stopped asking about his dad. He had adjusted to living with me. His room was full of toys, the yard was his kingdom. And every night before bed he told me, Grandma, I like living here with you. And my heart filled with light. On the 7th of February, day 29 of the deadline, Mr. Miller called me. It is the final night. Tomorrow the deadline expires. Do you want me to go with you to confirm they have vacated? Yes. I will need witnesses. I will bring a court enforcement officer. If they are not out, we can proceed with a forced eviction. The next day, the 8th of February, I drove to the house. My house. Mr. Miller followed in his car with the court enforcement officer. Isabella chose not to come. She did not want to see that place again. Not yet. When we arrived, the first thing I noticed was a moving truck parked outside. The front door stood open. 2 men were carrying boxes and furniture. I got out, took a deep breath, and walked inside. The house was nearly empty. Bare walls. Dirty floors. It smelled damp and abandoned. Margaret stood in the living room, supervising the moving company workers. When she saw me, her face twisted into a look of hatred. You came to gloat, did you? I came to confirm you are complying with the judge's order. We are leaving, she snapped, tense. Where is Daniel? In the bedroom, packing. I went upstairs. My heart was pounding. I did not know what I would find. He was in the primary bedroom, shoving clothes into a suitcase. He looked wrecked, thinner, hollow-eyed, hair unkempt. When he saw me, he froze. Helen, I do not want excuses. I am here to make sure you leave. He dropped his gaze. I never wanted it to go this far. It went this far because of your choices. Because of your cowardice. Because you let your mother control your life and destroy your marriage. I loved Isabella. I laughed, dry, humorless. If that is how you love, I cannot imagine what your hate looks like. I made mistakes. You did not make mistakes. You made decisions. You chose to humiliate my daughter. You chose to isolate her. You chose to throw her out with her child. Everything that happened was because you chose it. His eyes filled with tears. What do you want me to do? I already lost everything. I lost my family. I lost my home. What else do you want? I want nothing from you. I want you to leave and to leave my daughter in peace. I walked out of the bedroom and went downstairs. Margaret was signing papers with the court enforcement officer. Mr. Miller gave me a small nod. Everything was in order. Where are you going? I asked her. She looked at me with resentment. That is none of your business. You are right. It is not. But I am curious. After living here for years as if it were your house, where will you live now? We are moving into an apartment. Daniel rented it. Both of you together? Yes. Someone has to take care of my son. I smiled. Your son is 36 years old. He does not need you to take care of him. He needs you to let him grow up. You do not know anything about us. I know enough. I know you controlled him his entire life. I know you never let him become a man. And I know that is why he lost his family. She clenched her fists. Isabella was never enough for him. No. You were never enough of a mother to let him live his own life. Her eyes filled with angry tears. One day you will understand. When Isabella leaves you. When Lucas grows up and does not need you anymore. I am already a mother, Margaret. And I know being a mother means protecting, but it also means knowing when to let go. Letting your children make their own decisions even when it hurts. You never learned that. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door and stopped. I hope this house makes you happy. You destroyed a family to get it back. I did not destroy anything. You did that all on your own. She left without another word. The movers finished. The truck door shut. Daniel came down with his suitcases, got into his car and drove off without looking at me. And just like that, no drama, no ceremony, they were gone. Mr. Miller and the court enforcement officer walked through the entire house, took photos and documented that it had been fully vacated. It is yours again, Mr. Miller told me. I walked through the empty rooms. Every corner held memories. Of the day Isabella arrived glowing with hope. Of Lucas's first steps across the living room floor. Of laughter that turned into tears. Now it was just a house. And I had to decide what to do with it. Over the next weeks I cleaned it from top to bottom. I hired painters. I changed the locks. I repaired everything that had been broken. The house looked bright again. One day Isabella asked me, "What are you going to do with the house, Mom?" I do not know. I could rent it. Or I could sell it. And if you sell it, could you help me buy my own? I looked at her surprised. You want to live there again? She thought for a moment. No. That house has too many ghosts. But if we sell it, I could buy a place that is only mine. No bad memories. No shadows from the past. I smiled. That sounds perfect. I listed the house in March. To my surprise, it sold in 2 weeks. A young couple bought it, 2 little girls with them. They said it was their dream home. I handed over the keys and thought, I hope they fill it with love. I hope they never learn the kind of pain my daughter learned there. With the money from the sale, Isabella found a smaller house. Cozy, warm. 2 bedrooms. A small yard. In a quiet neighborhood near a school. It is perfect, Mom, she told me. Are you sure? Completely. This is where I start over. Lucas will grow up happy. And I will be free. She bought the house in April. The deed was only in her name. On moving day I helped her unpack. Lucas ran everywhere. Grandma, look. My room has a big window. I can see the yard. Do you like your new house? His mom asked. I love it. That night the three of us sat on the living room floor, still empty. We ate pizza straight from the box. We laughed. We planned how each room would look. And as I listened to them, I thought about Daniel and Margaret. I wondered where they were, how they were living. Not out of morbid curiosity, but because I knew life has a way of settling the score. The answer came in May, 3 months after the eviction. Rachel Bennett, my acquaintance in the Human Resources Department, called me. Helen, are you still interested in hearing about Daniel? What happened? I asked. He was fired. I went silent. Why? Excessive absences and poor performance. Ever since the legal trouble with you started, his work fell apart. He showed up late, did not meet deadlines, was distracted all the time. He was warned multiple times, and 2 weeks ago they terminated him. And now what is he going to do? I do not know. But I heard he is living with Margaret in a small apartment, and she is supporting him with her widow's pension. A part of me felt sorry for him, but only a small part. Daniel had built his own prison, brick by brick, decision by decision, and now he was living inside it. In June, Isabella got a job. A private elementary school hired her as a grade school teacher. She was happy, excited. One afternoon, while we were having coffee in her new house, she said something that surprised me. Do you know what is the most ironic part of all this, Mom? What? Daniel always told me I could not live without him. That I depended on him. That without him I was nothing. And it turns out he is the one who cannot live without his mother. He is the one who lost his job, his house, his family. And I am better than I have ever been. I smiled. That is the sweetest kind of justice. The kind you do not have to chase. The kind that arrives on its own. Lucas ran into the kitchen. Mom, look what I drew at school. It was a drawing of a house, big windows, a yard, and 3 figures. A woman, a little boy, and an older woman. Who are they? Isabella asked. It is us. You, me, and Grandma. My daughter hugged him. It is the most beautiful drawing I have ever seen. And it was, because it was a picture of a family that was not perfect but happy. Free. At peace. That night, driving back to my house, I thought about everything that had happened over these months. The pain, the tears, the sleepless nights, the rage, the fear. But also the victory, the justice, the freedom. And I understood something deep. Karma is not revenge. Karma is consequence. Daniel and Margaret did not pay because I punished them. They paid because their own actions destroyed them. Lies always come out. Abuse always has a price. Cruelty always returns. Not because God or the universe is cruel, but because life is fair, deeply fair. And sometimes the best revenge is doing nothing at all. It is simply living well, while they live with the consequences of their choices. It has been almost 12 months since that Saturday in the supermarket parking lot. 12 months since I found my daughter sleeping in her car with my grandson. 12 months that changed our lives forever. Now it is December again. The air smells like spiced cider and fresh-baked holiday treats. The streets are full of Christmas lights, and I am sitting in Isabella's living room watching Lucas, with that endless energy only 6-year-olds have, decorate the Christmas tree. Grandma, does this bulb go here or there? Wherever you want, sweetheart. It is your tree. My daughter comes out of the kitchen with a tray of warm cookies. She looks radiant, her hair shiny, color back in her cheeks, weight regained, healthy, happy. She sits beside me on the couch. What are you thinking about, Mom? Everything that happened this year. Me too. We sit in silence for a moment. A comfortable silence. The kind that only exists between mothers and daughters who have fought battles together. Do you know what day it is today? Isabella asks. December 21st. Exactly 1 year ago I was getting ready for the worst 2 weeks of my life. I still lived in that house. I was still enduring Margaret. I still believed I had no way out. She looks at me and smiles like she is proving it to herself. And look where I am now. In your own home, with your job, with your son. At peace. Have you heard anything from Daniel? She nods. He calls once in a while to talk to Lucas, but the kid barely wants to talk to him anymore. And the supervised visits. He only showed up to 2, just the first 2 the judge ordered. After that he stopped coming. He always has excuses. He is looking for work, he does not have money for gas, he does not feel well, and he pays child support late, but he pays. I think his mother gives him the money, I say, because according to Megan he still cannot find a job. I think about Daniel, the man I once believed would be a good husband for my daughter, the man who turned out to be so weak he let his mother destroy his family. Do you ever regret it? I ask. Marrying him. Losing 5 years. Isabella really thinks about it. At first, yes. I regretted it every day. I replayed everything I could have done differently, every sign I ignored, all the time I lost. And now I understand those 5 years were necessary because they taught me who I do not want to be. They taught me what I will never tolerate again, and most of all, they gave me Lucas. We look at him, he is singing a Christmas song while he hangs a red ornament on the tree. He was worth all the pain, my daughter says. Every tear, every humiliation, every night of fear. It was worth it because now I have my son, and I am free. I hug her. I am proud of you. Why? She whispers. You are the one who fought for me. You are the one who saved me. No, honey. I helped you, but you were the one with the courage to testify in front of a judge. You were the one who stood up after you hit rock bottom. You saved yourself. Tears roll down her cheeks, but they are good tears, healing tears. Thank you, Mom, she says, for never stopping believing in me even when I stopped believing in myself. Just then Lucas runs over. Mom, Grandma, the tree is done. Can we put the presents under it? Not yet, sweetheart. Presents go under the tree on Christmas Eve. It is still 3 days away. That is a long time. We laugh. And in that shared laughter I understand something deep. Happiness is not the absence of pain. Happiness is what you build after pain. My daughter lost 5 years. She lost a marriage, she lost her confidence, she lost her job. But she gained her freedom, she gained her dignity, she gained her son, and she gained her future. And that is worth more than anything she lost. That night, after Lucas fell asleep, my daughter and I sat in her small backyard. The sky was full of stars. It was cold but not brutal. Can I ask you something, Mom? Of course. How did you know you had to fight? How did you know you could not give up? I think about her question. It is a good one. Because you are my daughter and mothers do not give up on their children. But also because I saw it in your eyes that day in the parking lot. You did not have the strength to fight for yourself anymore. So I had to fight for both of us. And if you had arrived 1 day later? 1 week later? I did not arrive 1 day later. I arrived exactly when I needed to. Life has a way of putting things where they belong. My daughter looks up at the stars. Sometimes I wonder if Daniel is looking at these same stars. If he regrets it, if he understands what he lost. I do not know. And honestly, it does not matter anymore. Why? Because what he feels, or does not feel, is not your problem anymore. Not your burden. You are free now. And that freedom does not depend on whether he repents or not. Do you think he is happy living with his mother, without a job, without a family? I do not think he is happy, but I also do not think he is completely miserable. I think he is exactly where his choices led him. And that is justice, not revenge. Justice. And Margaret, my daughter adds. She got what she always wanted. Her son all to herself. Full control. No wife in the way. She should be happy. No, I say. She is not. Because controlling a life does not make you happy. It makes you a prisoner of your need to control. And now she has to live with an adult son who depends on her for everything. No job, no future. That is her prison. My daughter smiles, tired, clear-eyed. You know, Mom, for a long time I wanted them to pay. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to suffer like I suffered. And now? Now I understand I do not need revenge because they are already paying. Every day they live together in that apartment is punishment. Every day Daniel cannot find work is consequence. Every day Margaret has to support her 36-year-old son is a lesson. Exactly. That is the greatest wisdom. Understanding you do not have to be the instrument of justice. Life already is. We sit in silence. A silence full of peace, understanding, closure. After a while, my daughter speaks again. Do you know what surprises me the most about all of this? What? I thought my life ended the day Daniel threw me out of that house. I thought I lost everything, that I would never recover. And it turns out that was the best gift he ever gave me. Why? Because it forced me to leave. It forced me to face the truth. It forced me to start over. If he had not thrown me out, I would probably still be there, enduring, surviving, dying a little more every day. But you are not there. No. I am here, in my house with my son, with my job, with my life. And I am happy, Mom. Truly happy. And that happiness does not depend on any man. It does not depend on any house. It depends on me. I hug her hard the way I used to when she was little and fell down, and I lifted her back up. That is my girl. My strong girl. My wise girl. We cried together, but not from sadness, from relief, gratitude, love. The next day my daughter invited me to lunch. We went to a nice restaurant. White tablecloths, fresh flowers on every table. While we waited for our food, she pulled an envelope from her purse. I have something for you. What is it? Open it. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $10,000. I could not speak. What is this? It is part of the money from selling the other house, the one you bought for me. I want you to have it. No, honey. That money is yours. You need it for your new home, for Lucas, for your future. I already have my home, I have my job, my future is secure. But you sold your father's land to buy that house. You sacrificed your inheritance for me, and I want to give you at least some of it back. You do not have to give me anything back. It is not paying you back, Mom. It is gratitude. For fighting for me, for saving me, for loving me even when I did not love myself. My eyes blurred with tears. Please, Mom. Take it. It would make me so happy. I held the check and understood it was not just money. It was a symbol. My daughter stood up. She does not depend on anyone anymore. She can take care of herself, and she can take care of me too. Thank you, I whispered. But only on one condition. What? That you use it for the vacation you desperately need. Take Lucas to the beach. Rest. Enjoy your life. She smiled. Deal. We clinked our glasses of hibiscus iced tea to new beginnings, second chances, and the love that saved us. And as I replay every moment, every tear, every victory, I understand it all had to happen exactly the way it happened. Because if I had arrived one day earlier or one day later at that parking lot, my daughter might still be trapped. If I had not kept every receipt, we could not have proven anything. If Mr. Miller had not been so good, we might have lost. Every piece had to fall into place, and it did. Today, 12 months later, my daughter is free, my grandson is happy, and I can sleep in peace knowing I defended my family when it needed me most. What happened to Daniel and Margaret? I do not know for certain, and I do not care anymore. I have heard they still live together. He is still unemployed. She supports him. They fight constantly. Once he called me crazy. Once she told me I destroyed a family. But years later, when I think of them, I only see two people trapped in the prison they built with their own hands. Life has a way of settling the score. And I have my daughter back. I have my grandson laughing nearby. I have the peace of knowing I did the right thing. If my story can help even one woman open her eyes, if it can give even one mother the courage to defend her daughter, if it can save even one family from destruction, then every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of fear was worth it. Because in the end, love wins, the truth comes out, and justice arrives. Sometimes late, but always. My name is Helen Caldwell. I am 59 years old. And this was the story of how my daughter and I reclaimed our dignity, our freedom, and our future. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss more stories about women who turned their pain into wisdom. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change your day. God bless you, and I will see you in the next one.